TikTok is training you to leave the people who love you. And the most disturbing part is that you think it's your own idea. There's a very persuasive new attitude that has started to quietly colonize how we think about our relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, family relationships. And it tells you one thing over and over again, which is you deserve better. You are the prize. If he wanted to, he would. And you gotta leave when no longer serves you. And I'm not telling women to stay in abusive or toxic relationships. That's a very real historical pattern. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the rest of us, the young, free, chronically online people who sit on our phones at midnight, post argument, feeding the algorithm our pain, and the algorithm feeds us back an answer. Here's what actually happens in your brain when you're scrolling. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that's responsible for impulse control, empathy, long-term thinking, that all gets progressively weakened by chronic short-term video consumption. A 2023 study done by Dartmouth actually confirmed that heavy short-form video use actually degrades attention coherence and emotional regulation over time. And you literally lose the neurological capacity to sit with discomfort without immediately needing to resolve it. And love, real love, requires exactly that capacity. Love requires you to hold ambiguity without turning it into an accusation. And it requires you to endure friction without outsourcing your interpretation of it to strangers online. And the feed destroys that. Let's say that you have a really bad night with your partner or a fight with a friend. You're stressed, you're tired, your prefrontal cortex is already depleted. You go home, you get into bed, and then you just reach for your phone, subconsciously. And it's for relief, but it's also anesthesia. And anesthesia is precisely the state in which beliefs get implanted without resistance. So you pause on a TikTok or a reel about emotional unavailability, and that's it. That's all it takes for the system to register that pause and infer your vulnerability. And then all of a sudden your feed is filled with girls talking about men doing the bare minimum or love bombing, choosing yourself, you're not his priority, all of this stuff. You didn't actually search for it, but now it's all over your feed. And here's the part that should actually disturb you is it's the second exposure that does the most damage, because after the second time you see it, it no longer feels like something that you were shown. It feels like something that you know. And you stop saying, this is what I saw, and instead you say, this is how I see. And this is when, on a subconscious level, that person, your partner, your friend, stops becoming a person, a fully dimensional human, and they start becoming a problem to diagnose. And I've been thinking about this a lot because these ideas have affected me a lot more than I would like to admit, especially in the past few years. I was literally told from birth, from my family, you can have your ambitions, have your goals, but your ultimate goal in life should be to marry fucking rich. And I really refuted that idea my whole life. But then, as I started to get into my 20s and get older, and I started to see some of that rhetoric online, it really did start to influence me. And somewhere along the line, I did start to actually believe it. Not in the way that my family meant it, but in this new, slick, repackaged way that is sort of labeled as empowerment. It does kind of remind me of something that this filmmaker, Celine Song, said when she was doing her press tour for the film The Materialist. And she was talking about how capitalism has started to dictate literally every aspect of our life, to the point that now it's dictating our own hearts. I think now the way that so many of us evaluate love is the way that we evaluate a business. Like, what is the ROI here? What is the value that I'm getting? Am I due for an upgrade? And we financialized intimacy and started to label it as self-respect. And the feed doesn't show you how to repair, it shows you how to leave. And content about repair, about mutual containment, and the very unglamorous, slow work of staying and working on something, that doesn't trend. Do you know what does? Departure that's reframed as this awakening, and disillusionment marketed as growth. And the bond is no longer this shared interior space, it is a public performance. And the audience is invisible, it is everywhere, and it is always watching. Discernment is literally being trained out of us, and we think we're becoming more aware. We think that our standards are being constantly raised, but awareness and programming can literally look identical from the inside. And the feed will find you at your most fractured, that loneliness right before you're about to fall asleep. And it doesn't offer you perspective, it offers you a narrative. And once that narrative settles, it doesn't feel imposed anymore. It feels like you. And that is the trap. Love is not something that you just find, it's something that you build over time. And building love requires a tolerance for imperfection and friction. The question was never whether you deserve better. The question is whether you still know how to love what is real without scrolling away.